right, everyone, welcome back. And let's begin rendering this. Now, before we begin, I kind of noticed this section here of the ship. If I look at the small preview window here, which is very important, you actually notice it's just too small here. So I need to fix this edge. I just want to make it a bit, kind of like buffy like that. So I'll go over to the body. I'm already on the body. Make sure everything's locked, and then we unlock the body, and I'll just try to fix this edge here. I think I'll even disable everything and just leave the body, but then I might not be able to see everything, so I'll just leave that right here. So now I'm working on the body. So what I want to do is just make sure this edge here is a bit buffed like that. So I hope this is not going to look super weird. So I'll go over to the pencil tool, make sure I'm on black, and then I'll just try to draw to this edge. Now what's happening is I'm not seeing anything. So let's see what is going on here. So that's the body. I can add points here and it's not drawing anything. All right. And we're on this layer. So yeah, so the reason why it's doing that is because I believe I'm on the line tool, not the pencil tool, this one. Okay, I think there's a bug here somewhere. It's not letting me place let's view our grid. Let's show our pixel grid. Now I'm trying to place points here, and you can see how it's placing these points. So I have snap to grip. So I'm disabling that. So in case that happens, disable snap to grid. And the reason why that happens is because Shift S is my start recording button on my screen recording app. So when I did Shift S, it turned on snap to grid. So make sure you disable snap to grid if you're following along, so we can quickly fix this issue. And it's a good thing that happens, so we can see how we can deal with that issue when it pops up next time. So yeah, so basically, yeah, I feel it's a bit better like this because I have a little bit more, pixels around. So I'll just quickly fill this up with this color. So I'm using I for the eyedropper tool, selecting this and hitting B to go back to the brush. And we're just adding some of that right here. Now that's part of the visor. I can't really do that there. And over here, I might need to erase some of these because I don't want it to look too like that. Yeah, I think that's fine, right? We can get rid of this one. Then here we can add a black pixel. So just go over and select this one, and we can add it here and just see how that looks like in general. Now, usually I'll like to go around and get rid of any of these pixels I just feel are too much, but I'll just try to bring that back because that's totally fine. That's okay. So let's start our rendering properly. Now let's begin our render. Now sometimes the grid might not be helpful, so I just go to view and let's get rid of the pixel grid like that, so we don't have our pixel grid. So what colors should we use? Now that's a question of what you feel you want to use. You can use low spec and download very beautiful color palettes, but usually I like to play around with colors within the same range. For example, if I hit the eyedropper tool and click this is the orange I'm actually using. So if I wanted to use the shadow areas, because this bottom is a bit cylindrical, I'll use a darker value. So I believe this is darker because you can see how it's shifted from this point to this point. And if you wanted to move that yourself, if you go over here and bring out the color, you can go to HSV, hue saturation value, and you can just dial this down a bit while shifting your hue, right? So we have something towards a bit dark red, and that's not there, so we just place this here. So these two, we're going to use that to add some values to parts of the ship. And I like adding the value on the same part. So for example, I'm working on the body. Let's go over and switch to our brush tool so that we can add some of that shadow here and we can monitor what's happening on this preview window. So at the bottom, I'm just going to add some of these like that. Nothing too serious. Like for this part that's far away from us, for the wings. So I'll open up the fins and I'll go to the fins and add, I believe that's the fins there, like that. And I'll add this dark color to the fins. Now, if for some reason we can't see this, it's because the fins is probably hiding. Let's go ahead and just disable everything and bring back the fins. And you can see we have that dark value selected on the fins. But if I turn the body layer back on, you can see what's going on here. So let's turn off the fins and look at the body, right? So it means we have a pixel here on the body. So I'll just go over here to this body and use the eraser tool to just clear this out. And then we'll bring back the fins layer. So now if we bring everything back, we can actually see we're not seeing that. So let's get rid of the body alone. And let's go to our fins now and try to paint the dark value on the fin. So let's try to see what's happening now there. Let's get rid of this one. Let's turn off everything. And we can actually clearly see, we know that the fins are actually working here. If I try to use the eraser tool or E, I can clear out every shadow in the fin area, right? So we have the propeller. All right, good. So here's what we did. I actually painted the fin on the propeller layer, which is what is causing that problem. So you can see what the problem is here. So I have the fins, but each time I turn on the propeller, there's something here. So what I'll do is to erase everything on the propeller. So let's go over here. And you can see how we're debugging this, right? So interesting. So we'll just wipe out everything here. We don't want any color information here for our propeller. In fact, right? So we have the propeller. Now we can lock this. So if we go back to our fins and turn on the body, we can see we don't have any color for the fins. So let's add the color and the shading. So let's go over here. I'll hit the eyedropper tool to select this color real quick and then just fill this area here and then fill this up. Now I can use the eyedropper tool and select this and know that I'm actually adding some dark shades to the fin area. So now that we have this, let's add another accent color in between these two. Now the first one is here at the top, right? And this one is here. So we'll pick something in between and then we'll slide that hue back a little bit. And this is the one I'll just be using here to just indicate some slight variation on our object. So it really helps to add some of those slight variations. Now the side that's really close to us, and I'll add this in as a color. I'll just try to make that a bit bright like so. So we're adding some of the lights. So I'll add something like that here. And we can see how that's looking on the body right now. We can do the same thing on the propeller. So let's go to our propeller and then let's add just a light spot. It's deselected. So let's add a light spot here. Another one here. And let's do the same for the fin. Now this is going to be in shadow. So we'll pick one of our shadow colors and then go over here and place these two. And I'll pick one accent. And I'm not going to be picking any other color apart from this color. Now on the tail here, I'll pick this section here and I'll place that strategically here and here. And then I'll pick one of these colors and then place that over here. And I'll take this dark value and place that here. So if we look at this, like from afar, you can see how just a little subtle variation of these pixels is making the entire thing change and look better. So let's go over to, so we have the body. Let's bring everything back on and you can see how we're looking right now. So let's go ahead and continue adding that. So along these edges, I'm going to place some of these black spots and I'll make sure I'm on the specific layer. So I'll just go over here towards the ending like that, because here's going to be like dark a bit and I'll just place some of this like so, not too much. And I'll just bring back some little lighting information here. So I'll eyedropper tool and select this one and I'll just place some of this value here. Very subtle. You might not even notice the difference, but it really helps when you play around with the values like that. Now around the windows, I'll use a dark value. Remember, we're on the body layer, so I'll select this and I'll place this around our windows like so. Place one here. You can see it's giving it some kind of like 3D form. Now along the top of our shape, I'll brighten things up a bit. So the light is coming from here, right? So I'll just brighten this area up a bit. So from here on the body, I'll use a lighter value here at the top. So even though this is our base color, I'm just going to use a lighter value towards the top of the submarine. And the light value I want to use is this value that is already existing. So I'll select this and then I'll just paint out this entire area here, right? So just indicate that we have some lighting information here. I might just shift that hue a bit towards the right, just so we have a slight variation of that brightness. And I'll just place some of that around here too, like that. Like that. So this is the top of our ship. If we zoom out a bit, we can actually see that that's the top of our ship. Let's just go ahead and add this here and here a little bit. So we're just adding some basic lighting information like that. So if we go to the propeller, it's the same, and add one here just to lighten this up a little bit. I'll leave this to the shadow areas. I don't want to put any lights here. Maybe I could just add, that's the fin, right? So I don't want to make that mistake. So I'll go to the fin and just place that over there along the fin. Now let's look at the periscope because we haven't lit anything around the periscope. So for the periscope, we'll pick a dark value here for our periscope and just place that towards the ending, just a little L shape. And then we'll pick this bright value here and hit B and just drag that over here and then add just one dot as a slight difference. And then at the top of the propeller, we'll add these two. I'll just add a little light information here and I'll add some shadow here. So I'll just go over here and we'll just place this and then place these two dots for our shadow. And I just want to make this a bit different. So I'll add one spot here at the top and you can see how we are rendering our object. Now for the visor A and B, I'm going to use simple bluish gradients. So I'm going to lock everything and make sure I'm on visor A and visor B. So once we're on visor A and visor B, that's how I'm going to be creating the color. For visor A, let's unlock this and I'll use the eyedropper tool to select this. Now, what I'm going to do is just slide this down a bit. So I'll go over here and just drag this down till it becomes slightly cool like that. And let's just test this out. So I'll press B to switch to my brush tool and we can see how cool this is. So I want this value. That's nice. So I'll place that here and we want a slightly darker version of this. So I'll just drag this down a bit and I'll shift my hue towards purple and we can just see how that looks. Great. So I'll drop that in there. So we have two of these values, just two of these. And that's what I'm going to use to just paint around this section here. In fact, I want this to be slightly darker. So I'll just drag this down a bit. For our visor, what I'll just do is so let's just paint this section out like that. Now you can change this to any color you want, but I'll just leave it as, something just looking like that. So we have this nice, visor section. So inside right here, I'll pick that light blue value that's slightly different from this one. And I'll just use that and just paint around. And it doesn't really need to be, the same shape. We could just make some changes like that. I think that's totally fine. And then around it, we'll place some of that just to show that section there like that. So since this is our glass section, we just want to add a little bit of highlight here, and this will be the brightest part of our entire drawing. So we'll go over here and I'll just select this value and we could just place this shape right here like so. And then we'll go just a bit further more and add that. And I'll just place this right here like this. Right. So if we actually zoom out, that's our brightest. I'm not trying to use 100% here, but it would be best to test it out. So this pure white, we place it here and see how that looks like. So that's pure white. I really like that, but I'm not a fan of using 100%. So I'll just leave it at that value that's close to pure white, which is this one. And that's going to be our brightest value. Now we can do the same thing here, right? On our visor B. So I'll go to visor B, unlock, lock visor A. And then for visor B, we'll just place one spot here, just one spot for visor B. And we can use a little darker hue and then place that around here. Let's see, just place that here for visor B, and that's super good. Now, all we're left with is this sections here for visor A and B, because it would be nice to add a little bit of dark, shade around here, especially for this color. So what I'm going to do is just use the eyedropper tool and sample this value. And what I'll do is just move up a little bit like that. And let's open up this and then drag it a bit to the right so we can have a bit of rust there. And I'll click the question mark and then we'll save that here. And what that's going to do, we could just add these points around like that. Just indicate that we have some lighting information around here. You can see what it's doing. So I'll just slightly go to the top and I want to make this a bit neutral like that. So I'll just add one more here. I think that's fine. We don't want to overdo it. I think that's totally fine. And now we can go to, and look what I did. I actually created that on visor B. Whoa, that's not cool. So let's undo that because this is visor A, right? We did that on visor B, which is not acceptable. So we'll have to undo all the changes we're working on and make sure we lock visor B, go back to visor A and unlock. And I'll just quickly place some of that. So I placed some here, just some along the edge, and then towards this section here at the top as well, like that. Just indicates some basic lighting. And that's it, nothing too much. So now we can lock visor A and go to visor B, open that, and we can do the same thing here. So I'll just place that here, add that, and just add one more spot here. And I think we're good. So now we can see we have our object in our 3D form. I think you could go to visor A and just place a little bit here, like so. So it's all subjective now. You can place it however you want to place it. That's totally fine. It's all, all yours. You can do what you want to do, but we don't want it to be too much. And there we have it. Here's our ship in our fully rendered form. In our next lesson, what we're going to do is to actually animate this wing, and then we'll actually finally bring that into Godot. All right. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.